Welcome to the Generous Business Owner Podcast, where business owners gain inspiration and encouragement to live a legacy, not just leave one. And now your hosts, Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt.
Welcome, everybody, to this week's Generous Business Owner Podcast. My name is Jeff Thomas, and we've got a very special guest with us today, Ryan Hiebsch. He is the founder and CEO of Hiebsch, which is a real estate company. I want to welcome to the program, Ryan.
Thanks for having me.
Well, this will be a lot of fun. Well, Ryan, as you know, we always start with kind of the backstory. I know you're in Florida. Where did you grow up? What was the family like? That sort of thing.
Sure. I grew up in Gainesville, Florida, home of the Gators. Grew up a Gator fan. My dad was a professor at the university. My mom got her master's there. And so grew up in a household of educators. And I have several siblings. I'm the youngest of four. We come from a blended family, 21 years separation between my oldest sister and I, and then another brother and sister spread out there. And so just had a kind of a normal upbringing in Gainesville, Florida.
But you're the youngest, so you got away with everything, or you tried to. What
I think I did. I've listened to enough of these podcasts. I think I had that entrepreneurial spirit early on. I was a little bit against the grain, if you will, in school, and so had some struggles there in late high school with motivation of wanting to finish and trying to figure out how do we get on with life and get into the real nuts and bolts of things.
Well, but you ended up sticking around Florida for school, right? And tell us about that. You did study real estate finance, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah. So I moved up to Jacksonville. I wanted to honor my mom's desire for me to go to school. So I came to the University of North Florida in Jacksonville, studied finance, a track in real estate, and pretty quickly, I would say, I think it was my sophomore year, got my real estate license while I was in college. At the prompting of my brother, who's 12 years older than me, he was out in Fort Collins doing real estate brokerage work as well and doing some investing out there. And, I'd read the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book as most young entrepreneurs had and knew that I had everything figured out, that I didn't need school. I just needed to go buy some real estate.
Right.
It would all be okay. So started selling real estate. That would have been 2005. Thought I had hit gold because you were just taking orders as a young person. You could make $50,000 in college, and it was just this was going to be smooth sailing for the rest of my life. And then graduated 2007, and shortly thereafter saw the
downside of leverage.
Yeah.
And you were in the epicenter, arguably.
That's right. What was
that like? What was that like?
It was wild. I mean, I'll say thankfully, it was so early in my career.
Right.
22 years old in 2007. So I didn't have anything. I bought one house in 2004. I had rented out the rooms in it, which I've now come to know is called house hacking. And those guys were paying my mortgage, and we were having a grand old time. And I told everybody that I knew that if you just bought a house, you could hold it for a year and you make $100,000 selling. It was just the easiest thing. It was
It'll never
pretty
end.
much a no-brainer.
It'll never end.
It'll never end. And I had no real perspective on life, just young and bullish on pretty much everything that I saw. But I didn't have anything to lose. So there was that side of it. I didn't gain any perspective from the crash, and probably till 5-6 years later of what really was going on. But in the midst of it, it just felt wild.
Yeah, I mean, so you get out, and I mean, you're already studying finance with a real estate emphasis. You're already got a broker's license, so I imagine you're not really even looking for a job. Is that true? I mean, you just did more brokerage. I mean, what was that?
Yeah,
like?
I just kept selling houses probably through 2009, 10. 10 started to get pretty tough to put together brokerage deals. I still didn't even understand what it looked like to invest in real estate. I was really just trying to sell homes to primary buyers and sellers who were, looking for their homestead. I worked with a couple um, investors, but even that was kind of few and far between. I didn't have the understanding to watch what some of the players in town were doing when they were buying up houses at below replacement cost, which in hindsight is what people were really seeing the opportunities to be. And so it took me till about 2013 to really get going on the investment side of things and flipping houses and trying to understand what it looked like to start building a rental portfolio. I had watched my brother do it a little bit, but didn't really have the inner workings of what that looked like. So by 2015, had kind of transitioned away from full-time brokerage work being my main source of income to flipping houses being that, and decided that was pretty neat. Knew I wanted to build a rental portfolio. Didn't know why, but knew that was like what you were supposed to do. Again, I've never been the guy who can come up with a new idea, but I can certainly follow a blueprint of somebody else that I believe has done it well.
Right. So okay. Now, when I think of flipping houses, I don't, forgive me, I'm not in that business, but forgive my ignorance, but I think of flipping houses as being buying something that's kind of beat up, fixing it up and selling it, for a profit. I don't think of a rental pool necessarily. How did you reconcile that for me?
Sure. So you're 100% right. So we have a couple different silos, if you will, of our business. We have our rental portfolio, which today it's got about 150 units or doors in it. We have the rehab side of our business, which flipping houses, for lack of a better term, buying houses that are in need of some level of work, from a full gut job to maybe just updating of some cosmetics. We do new construction, infill, and then just starting to dabble a little bit in ground up development. We've got two developments in process right now, which have been, arduous is probably a light term for how that's been going. But we're having a lot of fun learning that. So
Take us through this. Okay, so I mean, you were kind of fortunate to not have anything to lose per se in
yeah.
'08. That was a crazy time, but I'm sure even as a broker, things slowed down. I would imagine things sort of ground to a halt, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, that was probably my first reality check that it
Yeah,
wasn't going to be rainbows and sunshine
right.
forever. I got a job waiting tables at Morton Steakhouse.
Here you go.
I was newly married. My wife was working a job doing SBA loans or at a bank or something like that. We were definitely trying to make ends meet, and it was. I mean, at one point, I even kind of hung it up on real estate and thought, like, is not the this is not the vehicle that is going to get me to where I want to do. I tried a couple other things, tried some insurance sales, just
Hmm.
realized I wasn't any good at that stuff, and ultimately, God kind of was pushing me back to real estate, and I love the creativity that is present in real estate. I love taking something that is not and making it something that is. I love the
Yeah,
idea that we can live in these structures, that we can have our businesses in these places, and it just feels very real and tangible to me.
yeah, yeah. So how did that develop? How did you start getting the expertise to kind of start buying your own things and start developing things? How did that expertise come along?
So it was, I feel like and you probably can share this experience or the sentiment, but I feel like when people ask me, like, man, how do I get where you are? It's like I actually have no idea how to tell you to get here, because if I
One
turn
step
around
at a
and look
time.
backwards,
Yeah,
yeah, if I turn around and look backwards, the line is so obscure and zigzagged, and it's just not one that I ever would have planned out, and I have to leave that to, like, that's just the path that the Lord had me on, and could never hope to rewrite that again. But uh, got to grow up in a house where we were very hands on. Like, if you
hmm.
need to do a task around the house, you do it, because that's how you save money. Watched my parents build a house from 2005 to 2007. My dad was an owner builder on it, and that was not his trade. He was a soil science professor at the University of Florida. So he just said, I can do that. And he did it great. It's a fantastic house. Um, Watched him do that, was able to see enough of it. I think he came up to Jacksonville, flipped a house in 2010. Um, and we didn't make great money on it, but it was something to do, and just started trying it
Yeah.
and figuring we'd stumble forward through that process, learning about construction, not ever really being able to do it, just learning about it, knowing what was good and what was not good, and just trying to understand, is there a way to make money in it? And that was still, again, I was just watching other people that I could
Yeah.
see in our area and saying like, man, they're doing it. I got to be able to figure it out somehow.
Yeah. So when did you sort of pick back up to a place where you thought, okay, and I like your honesty about trying some other things. I think there were a lot of people who experienced that downturn
Yeah,
that changed permanently. I mean, they're out of that
yeah,
industry forever. So luckily you were young enough to recover and get back into it. Okay, so I can see this picture. Your brother's doing a little, your dad builds a house, flips a house. So you're sort of seeing this, you're in this community. How does the momentum build?
yeah. So from a functional standpoint, probably 2016, I really realized that it was like a viable option for,
Yeah.
we could buy a certain number of these, um, and make enough to make ends meet so that we can then offset, like start buying some rental properties, and had this belief that, if you buy enough rental properties that have a little bit of passive income on them, that someday you can just have enough of them that you can stop working. That was kind of like
Right.
the early the early exit was a goal of mine. And I think pretty quickly that dissipated, just the desire to stop, because I was having a good time. I like making deals. I'm not an analytics guy. I can understand analytics. Having a finance background, people often are like, "Oh man, you must love the CFO role and all that." I mean, I like numbers, but I'd rather be out there trying to make a deal, pushing things forward, and trying to put together something. I put together some deal that everybody else has looked over, and we figured out a way to do it, which is not always the most profitable, but it is very fun. So
So how would you describe you said you've gotten to 150 doors as we call it. And this is all single family stuff, or are you doing some multifamily?
mostly all single family or small multifamilies,
Yeah.
duplexes, quads, 8 units, that type of thing. Um, we How did I get there? Is that
Yeah.
what
Well,
the question was?
what would you describe as the niche? Is there a niche or just kind of one thing at a time that kind of built up?
No, there was no niche. Honestly, it was is quite haphazard as we were doing it. It was like, as we saw deals, and as we were, the market here in Florida was just like going so crazy off its rocker that you could buy bad deals that became good after you had
Yeah.
bought them, and you could make mistakes, and because you took too long doing the thing that you were supposed to do, you actually did better on it.
Made money.
And
Yeah.
we were grateful that that was going on. But then as we realized that that was coming to an end, we also realized we've got to start kind of refining our business practices, acting a little bit more mature, acting like a real company that's going to measure some of our metrics and make sure that we're doing that. And thankfully during that time of growth, we're able to amass some assets, and that's been helpful to stabilize things, because um, as rehabbing houses and building new construction became more and more difficult. I don't know the exact years, but 2023-ish timeframe. We had a lot of hedge funds in Florida that were really
Yeah.
propping everything up big, and so as those guys exited, we were able to say, okay, there's a little bit of balance here, although times are probably going to get a little skinnier right now. There's still some legs to this and we focus really, like, almost all of our rehabs and our new construction is in this. I know affordable has more meat to it, but we call it like attainable housing, like the
Yeah.
under $350,000 homes that people can hopefully afford.
Yeah. And how has the organization developed over those last 9 years or so?
Yeah, so I mean, I was a kind of a lone cowboy for a long time, just enjoyed doing my own thing and realized that the limiting asset that I had was time and energy, and was fortunate to have some mentors in my life that, said, if you have the choice, you can do this thing by yourself, or you can start to expand, and you kind of have to figure out who you want to be. And was really lucky. I've heard horror stories about people hiring, but it was really, by the grace of God, he started like building our team in a way that has been really neat to watch. Like, I had no idea why we were doing the things that we were doing, why we were hiring the people that we were hiring, but just knew that we were surrounding ourselves with good people who we were going to figure it out. Some of which had like knew nothing about real estate. Most of who knew nothing about real estate when they started with us.
So how many folks do you have now, ballpark?
Man, I'm going to say we have about 8 of us now.
Okay. And okay, so you're the deal guy. All right. And then tell us how's the faith coming along? I know your faith has been developing and this sort of thing along the road. What does that road look like?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a believer since I was 8 years old. Had a great upbringing in the church. Really felt convicted. Was really plugged in college with campus ministries.
Okay.
Have always felt a calling to be a godly businessman. Was lucky enough to watch some other gentlemen, mentors who kind of pointed me towards that. But I actually think I missed what that meant. I think it just meant being a business person who is also a Christian, and not really understanding what it means to be a Christian business owner,
Right, to have them
and to use
integrate.
your
You're sort of
yes,
like
yeah, yeah,
you were talking before we started recording about kind of two different worlds. And I mean, I think that's how most of the world thinks. Frankly, most of the people maybe sitting in the pews on Sundays is like, okay, this is my church life, faith life, and then Monday, anyway, I go back to the real world, and then I'll come back on Sunday to get reloaded. But they don't
right.
really integrate the two. Is that kind of how you looked at it?
Yeah, no doubt. And I wish that I was like fully prepared to tell you I've figured out how to integrate those perfectly now
Yeah, well,
and
that's a
everything.
liptime battle. So you're
But
not necessarily
what I
behind.
would say is, I think the point in time that you're catching me at is, let's just call it a year into that like true like deep thought process where we're trying to say like, what does this look like for us? And now we've met, a couple handfuls of businesses that we've seen do it in their business, and every one of them looks a little bit different, and there's no real clear manual on how to do it in each of your businesses. And and we've done it wrong a couple times. We've tried the handout method in real estate, where someone can't make their rent, and you're like, don't worry about it. And then it's like the next month they can't make their rent, the
Yeah,
next month, and it's
exactly.
just like, wait a second, I'm not sure we're actually helping anything here. And
Right.
so then we decided, like, let's just not do that at all, and we can be philanthropic with our proceeds. And then I'm like, I don't really love that at all as well. But I would say last November, October timeframe, um, actually Jeff Rutt connected me with a contact of his named Don Winter, who runs a company called DLP Capital. And Don and I connected just on a short phone call. We had met prior to that at a Hope event, but connected on a short phone call. And he was like, "Hey, man, I'm speaking at this event called Redemptive Real Estate out in Dallas. And I just happened to be in Dallas, which I never travel for work, but happened to be in Dallas. I would say it's just coincidence, but I'm sure the Lord had all that teed up for us
Hmm.
perfectly." So I stayed over the weekend, went to this conference on Monday, and was just really challenged to see like how these people were using real estate specifically to serve the kingdom of God in a redemptive manner that was unique to the real estate industry, and got my mind clicking a little bit. Like,
Mm.
man, how could we start to do some of that in our business, and what does that look like? And I still don't know exactly what that looks like, but came home really excited, shared with the team, like, hey man, I think we've got this like platform that we can start to figure out how are we going to change things up. And And this is where I say, like, God was putting people in our business. One example of that, uh, Adam Alexander works for us. He was a pastor in South Florida and was ready for just a little bit of reprieve. And I told him, come work with us, man. I don't know what that looks like long term, but come work with us. It's like, man, we have a pastor on staff, you
Right.
know, like
Right.
that's wild. And so what do we do with that? And we have another lady in the office that worked in child services for a long time. And gosh, what does that look like? And so still very much in the middle of all that, but saying within our business now, man, what would that platform to speak into people's lives in a place? I think Don was the one that kind of brought this to my attention. He's The number of hours that people are spending in their homes is pretty unbelievable, or in their places of business, which we also do a little bit of commercial work. So um, you have a real opportunity to at least answer the question of, can we serve those people in those places that we have some control over?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I love that. I always think of that question about that. Um, Moses is kind of complaining to God about, man, I'm under resourced, God. Like these people aren't listening to me, And God's like, hey, what's in your hand? He's like,
Right.
what, this old stick? You know what I mean? Like yeah, that staff can do amazing things. So I always think
Right.
about, just start with the business you're in. Real
Yeah.
estate's such an easy one to think about, I think. I
Yeah.
mean, you get,
Yeah.
as you said, the time. I mean, they spend a lot of time in those places that
Right.
you own, and how can you influence them while they're there, and then at work also. They're spending
Yeah.
the employees are spending a lot of time there, and then you've got all the suppliers and builders and all of that kind of stuff too. So anyway, there's that whole ecosystem, and I know we were talking off camera about C12 and things like that, organizations like that that encourage people to kind of in a peer group think about how to connect those dots. So it's fun to have somebody like you on that's just being honest about the stage they're in, because that's
Right.
kind of the archetype of the kind of person that we think is generally, running on the treadmill and listening to this is, the business is going pretty well. You've gone through the school of hard knocks, organization's growing, things are going well. Oh, I'm a believer. How do I use this platform I've been given to honor God? All of it, all
Right.
of it.
Right.
So what are
And
some
I,
of the
and I
other
think that
things? Yeah,
that's just to piggyback on that.
yeah,
I think you can look at it, and it at times, I honestly, when it feels like when the devil's attacking me, I can look at other companies and be like, wow, they really have it
have
figured
it all
out. And
figured out, right?
yeah, I saw, man, they've got a chief spiritual officer, which is an
Right,
awesome, like the awesome thing. Like, man, I need to
right,
do that. And the reality is, like, we're a small, growing, learning company,
right.
and we've got a lot of things figured out, but we have a lot of things yet to be figured out. And so it's been neat, even within our office, to say, like, what, maybe we don't have this really intense system for how we're going to serve all of our tenants, for instance, today. But, like, what is something that we could do today? Could we pray for them on a regular basis? Could we uh, could we start to look for new opportunities? I mean, we just closed on a 38 unit townhome complex in Florence, South Carolina, that I'm not sure we would have looked at prior to this, but the opportunity came along, and we saw it as a really neat place to say, like, man, this whole community can now be loved on and touched by Sheepco. Um, but I don't find it coincidental that in that same town, that the pastor of our church is a youth pastor at a church that we've reached out to and said, can you guys love on this community? What does that look like? Hosting a summer power up club, which is like a vacation Bible school in that community. What are the little things that we can just start to put into motion to do to be the hands and the feet of God in our communities.
Yeah. kind of looking for those opportunities, and they're going to start finding you, perhaps
Yeah.
as you have. And to me, again, like we were talking before we started recording, like I think I was just scribbling some notes, and I was like, I'm pretty sure God doesn't care about the size of our businesses, but I'm
No.
pretty sure He does care about, and maybe this is the wrong word, but the size of our obedience. You know, it's the heart. It's like it's the widow's mite. It's like, I mean, if you got one rental house,
Right.
okay, or 150 or 150,000 or 1.5 million, what is the heart position that
Right.
you've got about whatever it is? And so, like that's it. That's in the Bible too, right? The parable of talents. Like some people get five, some people get one. Okay, well, even the one's supposed to work at multiply. You know what I mean? Like, well, how do you use it?
Hmm.
How
Right.
do you use it? Put it to work for the master, right? We don't own it, and a lot of real estate's leveraged. I mean, people are certainly aware of who owns it. Everybody in real
Right.
estate knows who the owner is. Most
That's
people say
right.
it's the bank, okay,
That's right.
until it's paid off.
That's
But if
right.
we think it's God's, well, then how do we behave in the obedience? And so I really like that you're trying to think about, hey man, we can get more systems later. What's our heart position? And then
Hmm.
I even like not only the real estate, but you're thinking about what are the talents of the people that are inside your door at
Right.
work. Uh, Maybe, I bet they're excited to hear about that. I mean, have they had some ideas, or what was the reaction
Oh
when you sort
yeah.
of came back with
Yeah. I
those
mean,
ideas?
it was awesome. Honestly, like I get a little bit. I mean, I can get chill bumps on my skin thinking about the Thursday meeting when I got back
Mm,
home, just to kind of share some really, really preliminary vision, like
yeah.
not even well thought out, which I know is not the sign of a good leader, but just to say, like,
No,
what could this look like? And we're a small enough organization, like we can all dream, or maybe
exactly.
big organizations can do the same, but we can all dream as to what might this look like, and we can all be facilitators of how this might look. And there are no rules. There is no set guideline or practice, but everything's on the table. So let's talk about it.
I like this idea of empowering. Like you thought about the skills and the background that your people have. And I like this idea of going, hey, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm inspired. Why don't you guys help me? I mean, to me, that's business 101 too. You don't have to have all the
Absolutely.
answers as a leader. I mean, most of the great ideas come from your team anyway. I know
Right.
it does for me. Most of the great ideas come from the team. They don't come from me.
No
But
doubt.
hopefully you can create an environment where they feel empowered to come to you with those ideas, business ideas, but also
Right.
ministry or generosity
No,
ideas.
it's been really neat. I mean, I can think of several scenarios that probably don't warrant detail, but like where our office has been able to go love on a particular tenant in a hard place at a
Yeah.
hard time. Like sometimes like really, really tough things going on in these people's lives. And there's a clear difference between somebody working the system and somebody
Yeah.
who's in need. And again, we don't have, some fund that's set up
Yeah.
to be
Yeah. Yeah.
able to do that, but I am encouraged to know that there are companies that have done that, and I'm excited to see where that grows into. But I I have I have really enjoyed watching and learning from some of these other people who who their companies are just so intentional about what they're doing on a day-to-day basis
I'll
to
tell you,
impact
I
people.
think that's another principle we can tease out of this, your story is to look for who else is doing it. I mean, I've been the
No doubt.
beneficiary of, I mean, I can't even name how many amazing mentors I've had and in my industry and outside of it that have helped with the business and the generosity piece and the framework. Like the whole idea of giving away your company, I never even knew that was a thing until 20
Right.
years ago. I heard Alan Barnard talk about it. And then that's why Jeff Fred and I are friends, is we both heard that story and are on that path,
Sure.
and it's
Right.
like, I probably never would have done any of that had I not met Alan.
Right.
So seeking other people with the same kind
Yeah.
of worldview, like God's whispering to you about, hey, you probably ought to integrate this faith world of yours in this business world. You were, motivated to do that. You heard some people, and then you kept pursuing it.
Right.
I mean, you didn't have to go to that conference if you weren't
No,
interested.
and when we got home, I linked up with the guy named Chris Chansey, who's running the NCF office here in Jacksonville now, and said, "Hey, I don't know what it looks like, but I'd love to be a part of maybe just having a local meetup for this idea of redemptive real estate." And
Great
I don't
idea.
have any preconceived notions about what that might look like, but we've had two meetups now, and just the conversations that have been stirred up and the I don't, again, I don't know what it will look like, but I've been really encouraged to be a part of those conversations. And I know that if we meet 3 or 4 times a year, that there will be collaboration that
Right.
goes on because of it. There will be ideas that are shared. Somebody else may be spurred on and may go do like just incredible things because of this idea of generosity in our businesses.
Well, again, I think most of the people listening to this are kind of in your position where, I mean, if they hit play on this podcast, that they're probably somewhat interested in trying to combine their worlds. And not
Yeah.
most people out there in your industry, my industry, and every industry are not doing it that way. So that
Right.
is the purpose of this, is just to motivate people to try to start thinking about that, maybe give them a few ideas. So I really appreciate your honesty on just where you are, and I know that this position that you're in, this sort of heart position that you're in the desire and the obedience as things come up to learn more, be in that community, and just start. Frankly, just like you're doing, just start.
Right.
Is going to pay big dividends. But for somebody kind of maybe behind you on the path, maybe they haven't run into the mentor yet, or haven't gone to the meeting yet, but they're kind of hearing that little whisper about maybe integrating their work with their faith a little bit more. What's a little breadcrumb you could leave for them to start in that direction tomorrow?
I think the thing that I continue to challenge myself and our small team with here is I have a tendency to want to get ready to get ready to get ready
Mm,
and to get it right. And maybe my business partner Frank is a cousin by marriage. He's my wife's cousin, and I've always he's about 10 years younger than me, but I've always been so um, inspired by his ability to just do sometimes,
yeah,
even when he may not be ready. And so it's been neat to think about that as we look here. We're building new construction houses, and one idea that came up from the team the other day was, we I see people write scripture on
mm,
studs, like when they're building their
oh
own
yeah,
personal house. It's like, man, what a simple idea. But
right.
what if we went and just like covered these 25 houses in scripture a year that
Wow,
we're building here in Jacksonville? That's a pretty cool thing. And
yeah,
I don't know what it does, but it's something I can do tomorrow. I don't have to have a system in place to do that. I just need a Sharpie and a Bible, and
right,
I can go out there and do it. So I think just beginning is part of it. That would be true in real estate. Like if you have somebody that's interested in getting into real estate just generally, and then even when you're in real estate or in some other business, about how do you implement this idea of faith and generosity into your business? What is something that you truly could just get done today? It's almost like the make your bed concept. Like I know I can make my bed
exactly.
today. And that's going to be different for everybody, but there's always something, I'm guessing.
I mean, I've had people talk about just putting a Bible on there, that they have traffic through their business, put a Bible out in the reception area and a little place to sign up if you want a prayer. I mean, they don't have to do anything. They don't have to pick up the Bible. I
Yep.
mean, that takes about 5 minutes. You know what I
Right.
mean? I mean, it doesn't have to, you don't have to have some big system. Don't overthink getting started, I think is
That's right.
maybe the message. So I think it's
And I would actually take some encouragement from what you said. Like, hey, what are the ideas that your team has? Because I think there is,
yes,
at least for me, like man, again, I think I got to get it all figured out first and then present this like well organized, thing to my team that this is how we're going to roll it out. It's like, that's absolutely not true.
right.
Let the people around you help you. They are
Exactly.
usually much more gifted in the areas that you would need to lean on. So
Great point. Great point. So use the team and just get started. Well,
Yeah.
this has been a lot of fun, Ryan. Thanks for joining us on this week's podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
And thanks everybody for listening, and share it with a friend and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Generous Business Owner Podcast with Jeff Thomas, Alan Barnhart, and Jeff Rutt. Make sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode. You can find the guest contact information in the show notes. Stay tuned for the next episode.